From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. Inflation rose last month to its highest level since February as President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs push up the cost of a range of goods, including furniture, clothing, and large appliances. Consumer prices rose 2.7% in June from a year earlier, the Labor Department said Tuesday, up from an annual increase of 2.4% in May. On a monthly basis, prices climbed 0.3% from May to June after rising just 0.1% the previous month. Worsening inflation poses a political challenge for Trump, who promised during last year's presidential campaign to immediately lower costs, only to engage in a whipsawed frenzy of tariffs that have left businesses and consumers worried. Trump has already declared that the U.S. effectively has no more inflation, as he has attempted to pressure Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell into cutting short-term interest rates. Yet the bump in inflation last month makes it more likely that the central bank will keep rates unchanged at the central bank's next meeting in 2 weeks. Powell has said that he wants to see how the economy reacts to Trump's duties before reducing borrowing costs. And now this immigration news from Atlanta. Immigration authorities are demanding that landlords turn over leases, rental applications, forwarding addresses, identification cards, and other information on their tenants, a sign that the Trump administration is targeting them to assist in its drive for mass deportations. Eric Tusink, an Atlanta area real estate attorney, said several clients recently received subpoenas asking for entire files on tenants. A rental application can include work history, marital status, and family relationships. The two-page information enforcement subpoena, which Tusink shared exclusively with the Associated Press, also asks for information on other people who lived with the tenant. One, dated May 1st, is signed by an officer for U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Anti-Fraud Unit. However, it is not signed by a judge. It is unclear how widely the subpoenas were issued, but they could signal a new front in the administration's efforts to locate people who are in the country illegally, many of whom were required to give authorities their U.S. addresses as a condition for initially entering the country without a visa. President Donald Trump largely ended temporary status for people who were allowed in the country under his predecessor, Joe Biden. Some legal experts and property managers say the demands pose serious legal questions because they are not signed by a judge, and that if landlords comply, they might risk violating the Fair Housing Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin. Critics also say landlords are likely to feel intimidated into complying with something that a judge hasn't ordered, all while the person whose information is being requested may never know that their private records are in the hands of immigration authorities. And finally, this news from New Jersey. 2 people in New Jersey were killed after their vehicle was swept up in floodwaters during a storm that moved across the U.S. Northeast overnight, authorities said Tuesday. Governor Phil Murphy, a Democrat, noted the deaths occurred in the northern New Jersey city of Plainfield, where there were 2 storm-related deaths July 3rd. A third person was killed in North Plainfield during that previous storm. We're not unique, but we're in one of these sort of high humidity, high temperature, high storm intensity patterns right now, Murphy told reporters after touring storm damage in Berkeley Heights. Everybody needs to stay alert. The names of the 2 latest victims were not immediately released Tuesday. Heavy rains moved through the Northeast on Monday night into early Tuesday, causing flash flooding. Video posted on social media appeared to show water flooding down into a Manhattan subway station, submerging the platform while passengers inside a train watch. Another photo appears to show passengers standing on a train's seats to avoid the water beginning to soak the floor. That's the news for this hour. PEP Radio is now available on Alexa. Simply tell your device, Alexa, play PEP Radio. You can also find us on the Live 365 app, on your Roku device, and on the PEP Radio page at paequality.com. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.